What's going on, guys? It's Professor Gnome, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit differently than we normally do on the channel, and that's going to be doing kind of a tournament vlog slash recap, where the goal of this video is that I want to go over the games that I played recently at a tournament hosted by the Garden of Earthly Delights. Shout out to the card shop. It's one not too far from me, run by some really great people, so just shout out to them. I was luckily enough and able to play in and kind of invited into the Toronto prep weekend that they were doing. So this took place last weekend. I can pull up the dates really quickly. It was the weekend of the 10th and the 11th. Just to prepare people who are going to Toronto and things like that. And it was a really great event with a lot of really great players. And I was fortunate enough to be able to record my games that I played while I was there. And so I want to be able to kind of show that off to you guys and things like that, and kind of recap where I think I played well, where I think I played poorly, where my opponents played well, and where maybe they made some mistakes as well that we can all learn from. And improve from and things like that. So yeah, I just want to kind of go over that. The deck that I played for the event was Mega Kangaskhan. I'll have it kind of pop up on screen with whatever deck list I was using at the time. I decided to go with the Cornerstone route rather than the Crustle or the Toadscrew line. Toadscrew I think is probably the best, but was just not really working for me very well, so I ended up kind of pivoting and moving just back to Cornerstone. And if I ran into Dango, I was just gonna, play the best I could around the low punnies and things like that. Fortunately for me, I didn't run into any Dango at all, and there actually wasn't very many in the room, which was kind of interesting. But with that said, I did have some really interesting matchups, and I played some pretty good games overall, and I feel like my play was all right. There's definitely areas that I could have improved. But to give a little bit of a breakdown on the deck, for those of you that don't know the deck or like how it works and things like that, it really focuses around the Mega Kangaskhan card and making it as tanky as possible through a combination of using the Curly Wall Bouffalants, where if you have a normal Pokemon, then they take 60 less damage, effectively making Mega Kangaskhan have 360 HP. But because it's a basic, you can also use the Bravery Charm item, or like tool card, and so that gives it an additional 50 HP. And then we also have the Lively Stadium, which makes basic Pokemon 30 HP like more. So you just kind of create this extremely large tanky beat stick in the front, and then you have Munkidoris on your bench, which if they have a dark energy attached can move 30 damage from any of your Pokemon to an opponent's active Pokemon or opponent's Pokemon anywhere on the board. And so what the goal is that you kind of take a lot of damage, but then you're able to offload all that and then survive and then be able to swing back. I hit my desk, so that's probably shaking the camera. But yeah, you're able to offload a lot of that damage, and it's kind of just having this like big raid boss style Pokemon in your active. So it's a lot of fun. If you haven't tried it out before, I have previous streams that I've played it on. I've played it on the channel as well, so you can kind of find that on the channel. But you'll also see some gameplay here as well. But yeah, that's just about it for this little intro. I don't want to make it too long or anything like that. Be sure to let me know if this is something you want to see more of on the channel. I don't typically do these kind of videos, so I wasn't exactly sure how to format this just yet, and the recordings are a little shaky. It's going to take me time to really get good at recording and editing together IRL footage, because I don't really do that. But it is something that I want to introduce more to the channel, so definitely let me know. And I'll probably be polling what decks you guys want to see me compete with as well in the future. But before we do, I want to give 2 shout outs. The first one is always to the channel members. Thank you guys so much for that additional level of support. Really does go a long way. It means a lot. So thank you guys so much for that. As for everybody else, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. That really helps out the channel. And as always, like I said, be sure to let me know what cards and decks you want to see on the channel, whether that's with me competing with them or me just playing them on stream or on the channel and things like that. The other one that I want to do, and I'll probably put the video up over this, this is not sponsored in any way. It's just a local artist that I was fortunate enough to be able to pick up one of their playmats, and I really like it. It's the playmat I'm using in this video, so in case you guys want to get a copy, the one that I'm using currently isn't up on the shop just yet, but it will be coming out in the future. But they have a ton of other really great art, really great playmats. The quality of it's fantastic. and the art on it's just really good. So I really wanted to give them a shout out. You know, if you have the opportunity to pick one up, please do so. They're really cool. They're a local Philly artist. And so, you know, just wanted to give a little bit of support. But that is Migzico. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, you know, my apologies. But I'll do a kind of, in the video, like I said, I'll do like a little scroll over. They have this Gengar one in particular that I love a lot and I really, really like. And I'll probably be like picking up in the future. The Snorlax one that I'm using in this video just isn't available on the shop yet, but it is coming out. They emailed me the date, but I don't remember it off the top of my head right now. But they have a lot of really cool stuff. They have some inspired from Silk Song. Why am I forgetting the Hollow Knight? And then some from like Hades and things like that, like a bunch of video game inspired ones, as well as Pokemon and all that kind of stuff. So they're really, really, really nice. And so definitely, if you have the opportunity or you're looking for something or whatever, definitely check them out. It's really worth it. The quality's great. But yeah, so that's my my plug, and definitely shout out to them. But all right, let's get into the gameplay, and I'll see you guys there. Peace. So going into this, you'll see that it says round 2, but it's actually because it's our first round of play. We actually got the bye. Also, if you saw the die there, that's the first time I've ever seen that happen. It like landed in the edge of the die, which was pretty kind of wacky. We did end up losing the coin flip, so they are choosing to go second. And if you look at the hand we end up with in a couple seconds, you'll see that we did not end up with a pretty good start, and they did. This is really important. I want to make something very clear before we start the game. As you can see there, we have double Turbo Energizer, a Bravery Charm, a Cornerstone, and a Ice Cream, and we have a Crispin. We see Absol on their side of the board, so we're already in a rough position. We don't know what the matchup is just yet. That hasn't been revealed to us. But we do know, like, our hand is really bad. We put Bouffalant out. The reason why we don't put Cornerstone is because if it's a matchup where Cornerstone doesn't work, we just lose if it's just stuck in our active. So we have to make the safest play we can. But one of the things that this game is really going to highlight is managing the timer. Timer is really, really important when you're playing in a best of 3, which you will be what you encounter at like a regionals or something like that. I'm going to speed the footage up here a little bit, just so that way, you know, we get this started and all that kind of stuff. But one of the really important things is, like, I only have 50 minutes to win 2 games, right? And so if I'm in a situation like this where my hand is really bad, we kind of have to wait to see like what we're up against to know just how bad it's going to be. Our top deck was a Super Rod, so we end up just passing because there's not really much else that we could do. We see them drop the Arven, and this is really going to tell us what kind of deck we're up against. At this point, we still don't know because we just see the Latias, and that could be a couple different things. That could be Guardy. There's variations of Dragapult that have it. And so it's not until we see Trolley Energizer that we know, okay, we're up against the like a mirror situation. And so when we see them go ahead and grab the trolley, use the trolley to get out their monkeys, and we see them kind of make their whole board, this is where we really have to start to worry, because we have to figure out, all right, how long is an actual game between us going to take? And will we have enough time in an extenuated game to kind of deal with that? We see that they have Cornerstone, they bring that up, they go Energizer, they have the Mist Energy, so they're going to be able to start powering up their Absol. We go for we place the Cornerstone because we are going to need it to beat theirs, even though it's not very good into the Absol. We also just kind of need an attacker. So what we're going to be able to do here is go for the Crispin, get the energy attached from the Crispin to the Cornerstone, and then attach return on to the Bouffalant, and start to just power up our Cornerstone. We could potentially find our route out, right? We're not in a complete loss yet because they chose to put both Dark Energy onto the Absol, meaning that we still have a chance in this game as of right now. But if we see them get double Dark Energy on to their monkeys, we know that this is going to be a really uphill battle. So honestly, at this point, what we're already kind of looking for is we're looking to scoop. We're looking to figure out, is it worth it to just call it and go into the next game so we have enough time to win the next two if we're able to do so. We see them have the option to discard here. They are going to knock out the Bouffalant. They are going to take their time. They discard the Crispin. So we're in a really, really bad spot, and we need something here. We end up getting into an Iono. We're able to use it, reset our hands, put them to 4. They still don't have monkeys, so there is a hope. It's not a great one. We do get into Kangaskhan. We're able to go ahead and look through our deck. We had a Nest Ball to get ourselves one of our monkeys, so we can at least start pinging energies back. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to do like a Turbo Energizer play or anything like that because we already have the Bravery Charm on to the Cornerstone. So we're kind of just left to swing here and just put a little bit of damage down. Again, it's not looking very good for us, and this is really at the point where we're considering what are our real options look like in order to win. We have to really figure out what we want because we're kind of already pushing ourselves a little bit into time. We're about 5 or 6 minutes into the game at this point, so there's still plenty of time left, but I also have to assess 2 major things here before I decide to scoop. I need to know for sure there's no way to win. I need to know that because they're playing Absol, I also need to know, do they have the enhanced hammer or not? If they have the enhanced hammer, then that dramatically changes how I have to play the game. Up to this point, I haven't seen one, whether that come from the discard, whether that come from anything else. We haven't seen one, so we're, getting a little bit more confident that they don't play one, but it's still very, very early into the game. There's a lot of cards to be seen, and so we want to know that going into game 2. Pretty much any information we can get is going to be good for us, and then also we're currently in a situation where, again, they don't have monkeys powered up yet, and we're going to be able to start doing that. So that also changes how confident I kind of feel going into this game. They were able to discard my Arven, so that removes the chances of me being able to go Ice Cream here unless I find one off the Pokégear. And that's one of the other things that I kind of have to be aware of. And really, we're in kind of a rough situation. So I kind of made a rule for myself at this point in the game where, because of the Bravery Charm, we're not KOing Absol here. If we KO'd Absol, then I would have considered continuing the game out. But at this point, we are kind of just left to exist, and I don't really love that. We're in a situation where we have to burn our second Iono. We're debating putting down the Cornerstone. We do, just so that way it doesn't clog up our hand later. And the board space doesn't really matter at this point. There's not a ton more we're going to be able to do. So we put it down, and this is really where we make the rule. Can we take, like, if we had hit Ice Cream here and we could heal enough to survive a second attack, then we kind of stay more or less in the game. At this point, I've given myself this turn and like one more, and if I'm not in a position to really win, I have to scoop because I am taking too much time to really allow myself a chance to pull it back. Because if I take too much time, it becomes beneficial for my opponent to just kind of slow play me in game 2 and kind of just take us to timer. I won't have an opportunity to really come back. If I hit an Ice Cream here, it's possible that I could come back, but unlikely. Or if I hit a way to get a second or third monkey powered up, then it would be potentially possible. But right now we're really just struggling. So we are just going to swing with the Cornerstone. And this is where it comes down to, am I going to decide to scoop or not? I really want to emphasize how important this kind of decision making is. And you'll see why this matters as this game goes on. One of the major things here is that we already know they have one monkey powered up. They have Absol powered up. They're going to be able to swing, knock out my Cornerstone. The only way that I can even get back into this game is I need to be able to go Crispin to power up my... I need to be able to Crispin to power up my Kangaskhan, and I need a energy, like an energy switch to move the dark energy from my monkey onto the Kangaskhan. If I have those 2 cards on the next turn, then I can knock out the Absol and try to put myself back into the game. If I do not have those cards, I cannot win. And so it's really going to come down to that on my next turn. Those that's my only real out. So we have to figure out what the only kind of percentage play is. And if we can do it, then we'll go for it. If we can't, then we have to pack it up. And so really that's what's going through my head right now, trying to figure out what routes are possible to me in terms of like what can I actually do to get ahead into this game. Because also when they knock out my Cornerstone, they're going to go down to like 2 prizes. I'm not going to, or they're going to go down to 3 prizes. And I'm not going to really be able to do much really about anything at that point. So they're going to swing. They're going to knock out my Cornerstone, go down to 3 prizes. We promote the Kangaskhan up so that way we can get the errand running. And then we let them discard a card. They get rid of the Penny, which is fine. We top deck a Dark Energy. This is not a great top deck. It's not either of the cards we need. And we have to hit a major errand running here. So we go for the 2. We end up on double boss, which is not really what we want because they have Latios. There's nothing we can boss trap. We Arven, just kind of look to see if there is a potential play that we could make, but there's Bravery Charm on our active. We're not going to be able to really do too much. We could attach potentially for turn, but that doesn't really get us anywhere. We're looking at the Turbo Energizer. The main reason for that is, again, we could maybe make an Energizer play absorbing an attack. But we don't really get anywhere no matter what. So as we're kind of considering here, we're going to be packing it up pretty soon. Right now, I'm really just thinking about what I'd want to do for a game 2. Like what could be different. We show the Energy Switch. We probably could have chosen to just scoop before we showed we had Energy Switch. But I have to kind of assume my opponent knows what we're going to do. And so it really is a situation where I'm better off just kind of scooping it here. So that's really what I'm considering. Again, you'll see why this is so important, and something I really want to emphasize: know when your game is over. And that's kind of like I'm sitting here trying to figure out if there's a route, and there really isn't. I kind of tried to think about it a little bit, but it's going to come down to this. Like once they attack, yeah, it's like pack it up. We're going to move on, and we check our prizes just to see what was there. And like I said, there wasn't really a route that I was going to be able to get into. We could potentially go for like an attach, you know, Monkey Energy Switch combo play, but then they set up Cornerstone, and there was just going to be, we were going to be way too far behind and way too weak. So we start to pack it up. We're going to shuffle up and jump into our next kind of setup here. I'm going to cut to that in just momentarily, but the reason why I really want to emphasize this, and I know it's something I've been hounding on a lot, we had a really bad start. We did the best we could to make something out of it, but now we're able to pick, we're able to go second, which is going to be really important in this matchup, as well as the fact that we got to see a little bit more of their deck, and we also gave ourselves enough time to be able to win a game. Now, we're able to kind of play around and have enough time that even if our opponent plays slow, we're still able to win the game. And then what will happen is it kind of incentivizes my opponent not to play slow, because if I have the potential for a game, then we'll tie. So it comes down to, if I get ahead here, it kind of gives me the kind of advantage of, like, if I get ahead here, it's worth it for my opponent to scoop, give me the game, so that way they have a chance to also win. We see them pass here. We top deck another dark, so we don't love seeing so many dark, but we are going to run errand, and run errand is going to give us some pieces, not a lot, but it is going to give us enough thanks to the fact that we do have the code breaking. Code breaking is going to make a big difference here. We're going to attach the fighting energy onto our Kangaskhan. We're going to be able to go code breaking, and code breaking is going to set us up for the next turn. And that's really important because we need to be getting our pieces. So what we're going to look for is we're going to look for a trolley and kind of set that up. And then what's also very important that we have is we're going to go trolley mist energy. And the reason for this is that I'm still very worried. We did not see an enhanced hammer, but that does not mean they do not have one. And that's a kind of big concern for me, right? Because if they go double monkey onto a Kangaskhan, it doesn't matter how beefed up I am. It doesn't matter how much HP I have. Absol is going to be able to just kind of run through me. And I also know that it's okay to go for this this kind of play with the it's okay to go this play with the Codebreaking, because their next turn they also want to be going Trolley, they also want to be going Turbo Energizer, so I have time to kind of just sit and relax on my own cards and kind of take my time as well. I'm not like super worried about timer at this point in the game, but I am, you know, minorly worried about it. We see them go for their own Arven so they can Trolley and Energizer, which is totally fine for me. I'm kind of just sitting here. Also, I want to give a special shout out to Bluestone TCG. He's the one who got me the ability markers that are the poker chips. So shout out to him. Also, this cam is really shaky. We kept hitting the table. So sorry about that. Well, that'll be addressed in the future to try to make these better. This was the first time. This is kind of an impromptu idea that I had, so I didn't make this as well as I maybe wanted to, but we did our best. So is what it is. It's going to come back to our turn. We're able to get our setup where we get our monkeys. We get our own Cornerstone. The mist is attached. And now I'm less worried about the Cornerstone itself because it's not going to be able to really punch into me for too much. We're kind of going to be able to monkey around it. We're able to pass our turn. They go boss's orders. They set up an energy transfer, or an energy switch rather, and they are going to claw down one of the Bouffalants. My whole hand is essentially the same thing, so it doesn't make much of a difference. I'm going to be able to go Arven. Arven's going to grab me the... what's kind of important here is Arven's going to be able to grab me and get my Bouffalant back, so I'm going to get that reset up. And then we are able to, from here, do something pretty decent to kind of help ourselves. Again, we have the Mist Energy, but I don't really want to be in a situation where I can give them damage. If I give them damage, especially here, we see them drop the Arven, and that does influence my decision making here. I was already going to make this play, but I want to just be clear that seeing them drop the Arven did kind of influence our play a little bit, where we have the option to Turbo Energizer, right? Now, this is still the correct play regardless, and this was also the play I was going to make, but we go Turbo Energizer because we also do not want to be giving them damage. We want to be able to, like, absorb the damage. And then we're going to go Psychic Energy onto the Kang, so it is completely powered up. And then we'll go for the Night Stretcher to get our Bouffalant back. And then we're going to be able to go Turbo Energizer to kind of help power up our board. So we get our Damage Rush Bouffalant. We'll add it to hand and then place it onto the field. And then we Turbo Energize. One of the main things that I want to jump to, so a little bit fast forward into the game, just because I don't want this to take too long. We are winning this game, and this is why I really want to highlight knowing when to scoop. If you can look at the prize cards, we have 2 left because we bossed a target. So we KO'd the Absol that was in the active. We learned they do not have Enhanced Hammer. That's why this, Mega Kang is still in the active. We knocked that out. We knocked out the Yveltal here that they bought up to try to, like, Bouffalant trap us. So we're on 2 prizes. We have double boss in hand. At this point, our opponent cannot win. They have Latias with 6 energy pinged onto it. They have a Penny. They could play to up the Latias, but between Absol, between Lottie, there's too many targets on the board. They know we have double boss in hand. So even if they go and attack with Absol, they would not be able to remove both bosses from hand, and playing the Penny, there's no way to reshuffle us. And this is a situation where they make the opposite approach that I made in my game. At this point in the game left at this time, we had about probably 10-ish minutes of gameplay left, and we still have another game to play after this. So the chances of us tying are kind of high at this point. But I think at this point we had like 13 or 14 minutes. So enough to play through a game if one of us gets kind of unlucky. However, they do not want to scoop the game. They're continuing to play it. This is really bad because even though they can move 60 damage onto the Kangaskhan, that does not matter because we have double monkey, so we're going to be able to move that 60 damage back, and we also have boss. So as soon as they pass to us, we're going to be able to just play the boss, pull up the Latios, move 60 to it, put it in range of a KO as long as we can coin flip. So I guess that's what their hope was, that like they wouldn't be able to coin flip us, was potentially maybe their goal. But we are going to be able to go grab the coin, or the die rather, roll it, get the heads, and knock out the Latios. I rolled an extra one just in case. And now that's going to bring us into game number 3. Game number 3, we do not have a ton of time because after the point of me playing, they are going to mulligan, so this is going to take even more time. So now it's a situation where we're into game 3. They need to be able to win the game, right? But we're only at like 6, I think we had like 6-ish minutes at this point in the game for overall timer, right? They mulligan. This is taking even more time because they need all their time to set up. We flip. They are going first. We open Cornerstone. We are going first. They open Cornerstone. We put the Bravery Charm on, and we go double monkey. At this point, it comes more down to, can I survive? Because my hand is bad. What you don't see here, and I haven't got to find this out for myself yet, my prizes were very, 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 very bad. I prized my Bouffalants. And so, had this been a full game, I would lose, because I just wouldn't have access to like a whole half of my deck, right? But they're going to go Kangaskhan. They're going to Turbo Energizer, start powering up the, they're going to be able to start powering up the Absol. But at this point, I can go Dark Energy, Fighting Energy, reset, start, pulling out cards. And now it becomes a situation of my hand is really, really bad. My prizing situation is really, really bad. I don't have many options. So I'm stuck to kind of just sit here and pass, right? So they're in the driver's seat. They have all the advantages in this matchup and in this current situation. If they can retreat and attach an energy, which they're able to do by just going for the energy switch, they go for the lilies. So if they're able to just move out of the active by getting into their Latios, they're going to start swinging on us. They're going to start discarding cards. They're in the driver's seat. This is a game that they will win if there is enough time on the board for them to do so. Our hand and prizing is really bad. They get the Petch, which is pretty much the same thing as getting a Lottie. So it's like kind of all up to them now. But because they did not want to kind of speed up their play in game number 2, and because they did not want to scoop, they end up in a situation where it kind of becomes our game to lose more than their game to win. We're able to have Kangaskhan. We'll move damage on to the Absol. And now what we'll be able to do is just let our Cornerstone kind of get KO'd here. We're going to be able to Energy Switch, move the fighting off, put it onto our Kang. Start to get that prepared, and then we can Ciphers for next turn to get ourselves the pieces that we're going to want. And this is where I find out that my energies that I want, my Bouffalants and stuff like that, not really in the deck. So we're kind of struggling here. Again, this is where we know, like, all right, this game is going to become much, much harder for us. But again, at this point, there's about a minute and a half left in gameplay. And so we just have to not lose at this point. Like, that's what we're preparing for, because of the fact that we know, like, our opponent has to play an unbelievable game in order to beat us in enough time before we just end up tying. And this is why I advocated so heavily that in game number 1, and so like they're going to Iono here. 2 of the cards, because of the code breaking, are exactly what we want. The only problem here is that Crispin is one of those cards. We wanted to be able to Crispin just to get our Kangaskhan powered up, because we do still want to win, and the path could be that we go and get like a high roll on to this Absol. If they, like let's say they don't, like let's say we get the Crispin here, right? We're going to be able to move 30 onto the Absol. You know, there's already a little bit of damage there. We're going to be able to kind of power up, but they did discard the Crispin. We have to kind of get really lucky here. But again, it comes down to more of a situation of if they can beat us, which they can't, so we end up tying, which it just comes down to because of the fact that they did not concede. Going into our next round, we are in a situation where there was Sunny kind of popping her head in. We lose the die roll again, but they go but it doesn't really matter too much because they get to go first. We're up against Terrazard, and this matchup is really, really, really fun. I really like this game, this set. Unfortunately for my opponent, just like our prizes were really bad in the last game, this one is a really, really unlucky situation. They actually end up prizing their Pidgeot. So because their Pidgeot's prized, it kind of does corner them a little bit. We do have Cornerstone in the active as well. And that's not a horrible situation to be in, especially against this deck. Now, they have plenty of Cornerstone answers, but it does force them to have to find those answers, which they're not always going to be able to have like readily available right at the right time and all that kind of stuff. So they're going to pass to us after getting themselves set up. We're going to go for the Crispin combo, where we get a Fighting Energy and a Psychic Energy ready. We can start just kind of powering up the Cornerstone because we don't see a Terapagos on board, and if they don't have that, they can't really deal with my Cornerstone. We just go double energy on to that. And again, our hand is not very good. We kind of had a really bad kind of start to our game. But our opponent's going to make the first, like, in my opinion, kind of big misplay of this game. Now, obviously, they have to work with the resources that they have. But they go Rare Candy into Charizard because with Charizard they need, or with their Noctowls, they need a Terra on board. So they are going to make the Charizard in order to start that kind of sequence of having that. They're debating on if they want to put, like where they want to put their energies and how many they want to commit. The major misplay that's going to come in this turn, there's kind of 2 of them that I think make a big difference. Our hand is really, really bad. We're kind of stuck here. If they have a Cornerstone answer, then like they got it. We're in another scenario where it's like, okay, do we think of scooping? Probably not yet anyway. We see them go for the Dawn, and they Noctowl for Dawn and Stadium. They use the Stadium, really opens up their board. We see the Turtle come out. Turtle's a problem, but I cut here, but pretty much what happens is that they go Zard on that turn, and they Prime Catcher up the Munkidori. So our Cornerstone has 3 energy on it. They knocked out Munkidori. We actually end up top decking into the Cypher's Codebreaking. So we're going to put those cards on the top of our deck, and now it comes down to, can they pretty much KO me, right? Can they deal with my Cornerstone? I have Counter Catcher, so I swing into the Hoot Hoot. My theory is that Hoot Hoot gives them way more options. Remember that I need Cornerstone to survive this turn. If it can survive this turn, I have the chance of winning. If I don't, then I just lose, but that's fine for me. Like, if I lose here and we get to go into game 2, I have plenty of time. I'm not too worried about it. If they can't KO me, then I have a chance to win because I know what my next cards are. I'm in a situation where, again, it became a choice between getting rid of Hoot Hoot and getting rid of the Hoot Hoot or getting rid of the Duskull. And I thought the best play is getting rid of the Hoot Hoot, because Duskull represents enough damage to KO me if they Rare Candy, but they also have to have Dusknoir Rare Candy with no search, which I didn't feel like they would have. And they'd also need Rare Candy Charizard if they were going to get the Terapagos on board. This is also where I think they made a big misplay. They end up popping the Dusk onto the Cornerstone just for 50 damage, just to kind of have damage. And I don't think that's good because, one, this is damage that I can monkey if I get the opportunity, right? I guaranteed myself Trolley and the Turbo Energizer because of the code breaking on the final turn or on the last turn. So I'm able to kind of start to get myself back into the game. Now, again, with the energy, or sorry, with the 5 damage that I already have on board, I'm going to be able to start moving that around and being pretty annoying. Not only that, but it helped me get a prize card, which helps me get a little bit like more to work with for my hand. And the 50 damage does not do anything for them, as where that could be a Duskull on the next turn, or a Dusknoir on the next turn, in order to start getting like far more going for themselves. So we're going to be able to attach a Dark Energy to the Monkey, start pinging damage onto the Charizard to make it a little bit easier to KO later. Then we're going to get our Turbo Energizer off to kind of think about what we want, and we're going to grab a Fighting Energy here, and we're going to grab another Dark. And from here, the play just becomes to power up our Kangaskhan as quickly as we possibly can. So we're going to put both of those onto Kangaskhan and then look for our other pieces. We pass the turn back to them. Our Cornerstone is kind of in danger, but again, if they make Charizard here and they're looking to go for the Turtle, it means more energy has to enter the board, more energy has to go onto the Turtle. And so we see a 1-1 there. So now they have to find another energy if they want to attack with either one of those. They end up kind of scooping, so we go into the next game. They didn't feel confident that they were going to be able to do it, so they just scoop, which was a good choice on their part. We go into game number 2, and they open. Going first, again, we do have a much better hand this time around, and we actually end up opening our Cornerstone. They get their Terapagos out right away, as well as the Fan Rotom. So we are in game number 2. Like I said, they made the right decision by just scooping, giving themselves as much time and things like that to work with. And we are going to be in a situation where they have their Pidgeot this time around. So they're going to be able to go Terapagos, Pidgeot, or like Terapagos, Pidgey, and pass back to us. We are going to be able to go Mist Energy onto the active. We're going to go Monkey down and a Code Breaking. Code Breaking is going to be able to find us what we want for our next turn, which is really good. Code Breaking coming up super, super clutch. We're going to shuffle this up. And again, we'll be a little bit slow, like we'll be like a turn behind. But we do have Mist Energy already on, which doesn't make that big of a deal, but like it is just nice to have. We're going to put the Trolley at the top of our deck. And then from there, we're just gonna pass our turn. This is pretty important. On the next turn, we're going to be able to Trolley Crispin is the play, so that way not only can we start attacking, but we'll have a full board. This is where there is a minor worry. I'm also going to make a point. My opponent was a little too nice to me. We are like buddies and stuff like that, so there's an explanation to why, but I'll point it out when it happens. We see that they have double Duskull right now, and then there's the Pidgeot off the Dawn, another Charmander, and a Dusclops. They go Rare Candy for Pidgeot. They're able to Pidgeot and get themselves the Rare Candy for Charizard, which is kind of crazy. They're just having the nuts. Then Terapagos starts to get powered up as well. We don't have a real board, so we're not able to really deny a lot of the damage, at least not yet. But we're able to get the Trolley off our top deck and start to set ourselves up a little bit better. We do get another Kangaskhan on our board, and this is the part that really matters. Technically speaking, we started shuffling, so we should not have been allowed to reconfirm what we got off Trolley, but our opponent was nice enough to allow us to do so, and that allows us to make a better choice and put our Psyduck down, which I thought I grabbed, but then realized I didn't because I just kind of autopiloted into getting the 2 monkeys. I didn't need the monkeys, so we end up going Crispin. We full power our Kangaskhan, we Ice Cream, and heal our Kangaskhan to a point where we feel confident that we will be able to live the next turn. And then here, we need 3 heads to knock out the Charizard, but we actually are in a situation where we end up rolling 1 heads here. So we're at 250. We roll another heads, so we're at 300, and then we roll this one right here. It kind of rolls a little tilted, so we agree to re-roll it, and it ends up rolling a tails off the table. So then we roll it again, and it's another tails. So what ends up happening is that we don't get the KO, and we put it to 330. And initially, I was like, oh, wow, we whiffed KO. Maybe that's annoying. But then as I reassess the board, that's actually better for me. The reason for this is that if I had taken the KO, the odds that they get into a new Charizard here with their pieces available is pretty high. And if I took the KO, they'd be plus 60. They could pop a Dusclops, put the damage on me, potentially get Dusknoir as well, or like another Dusclops play. But with all prize cards taken from the Dusclops, from the damage that it's already on me, as well as the plus up from the 2 prize cards taken, we'd actually get KO'd. And if we did get KO'd, we would just lose. So it actually worked in our favor to end up only getting 2 coin flips rather than 3, because I was able to use Munkidori to move the other 30. And so that's what ends up happening. We're in a situation to kind of close the game out where they are able to knock out our Kangaskhan finally. But what ends up happening in this situation is we pull up our Kangaskhan, and the game went kind of slow because they were really trying to figure out how to kind of close out the game. And so in this situation, we get into a mark where after I pass, the only thing left for them to do is they have to KO me. They have to take 2 prizes somehow, so they have to climb over the Kangaskhan again. I'm in a situation where I have the option to boss them, but if they can get into the Jet Energy, then we just lose. I don't want to do that, so I have to figure out what my best play is, and this is me assessing. So we see 1 Jet Energy in discard. I'm debating, do they have the second Jet Energy? If I don't think they do, then I could boss them. But if I do think they do, then the best play for me to make is to just make myself as tanky as possible. So I go ahead and go for the Arven, grab the Bravery Charm and an Ice Cream. The Ice Cream will not matter, but this is really just a prep, because if I'm tanky enough to live the incoming attack, I will win the game in time, because we already won game 1. This is game 2. We make ourselves as tanky as possible. There is not really a route for them to KO me at this point, unless they can get into Dusclops. And if they can't get into Dusclops on this turn, if they can't get into Dusknoir on this turn, then there is not really a path for them. But at the same time, they can't get into Dusknoir and the Klefki at the same time. So they are kind of stuck here. They are able to rare Candy, get Dusknoir. So it comes down to, can they hit Jet Energy? And I have to kind of just sit here and wait. And if they have it, they have it. If they don't, they don't. They Iono for 2 more cards. They had already quick searched, and they whiff it, unfortunately. So they kind of just have to pass. They find that it's better to not attack, and then I am going to just kind of ride out the turn, see if there's any way for me to get the last 2 prizes. I don't think there is. I don't think there's a way really possible. So I'm just going to kind of play out my turn, and then we'll pass it because there's nothing that can be done. So that's going to close out the game. We are going to win that one for a kind of, 2-1, kind of 1-2 kind of situation. We jump into our round 4, so at this point we are 2-0-1, and this game is super, super good. I'm really, really happy with this one because I get absolutely steamrolled in this game number 1. I open Cornerstone. My hands have been really bad all day. We lost a coin flip, so our opponents got to go second, and they set up, and our opponent here, whose name was James, is a really, really good player. And I had never played this Grimmsnarl matchup. So in this one, a lot of this is learning. Was what I had to do. This match was really important because we were really able to kind kind of learn how to adapt to a matchup and learn from our mistakes very quickly. That's the biggest thing I'll say is like game number 1, what we had to do was we had to learn that it's okay to scoop, right? We wanted to give ourselves the best odds, so we ended up being able to kind of tie a game we should have probably ended up losing, specifically because we scooped soon enough. So that was very important. And now in this game comes down to like learning how to adapt in real time. We're going to see a situation where we are about to get absolutely bodied in a matchup we don't understand. And in order to play better, we have to figure out like what went wrong in real time. And so what we see here is that our opponent right now, James, is deciding on if he wants to go TM Evo or if he wants to go for an item lock route. He decides that TM Evo is the direction he wants to take. He gets double Monkey down with a Badoo with double Frostlask enabled. So at this point, we are kind of unsure about like what the best route is. He goes for the double Frostlask, and so he gets that ready. We go Arven. We're going to start our standard play, and this is kind of where we already start to lose because we go and make a standard play. Now, obviously, Cornerstone being on our board is not very good. It's not very good because of the fact that we are going to kind of struggle to remove it, and it is just something that's going to get Frostlass damage over and over and over in a way that we can't really deal with. We do get our Kangaskhan. We get our Monkey out. We are able to kind of set up our Bouffalants as well, which is good, but just not like super great. Cornerstone is kind of an issue, but I make a very critical error, and this is something I want to kind of emphasize very quickly. I make a critical error here where what I do is that I set up the Bravery Charm here, and that's totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. I'm going to go for the Turbo Energizer onto the Cornerstone, and then I'm going to attach the Psychic Energy to the Kangaskhan. All of this, totally fine. The Turbo Energizer play is where I kind of make a mistake. And it's not exactly a mistake as much as it's just not the best play I could make. I go double Dark Energy, and that's correct but incorrect at the same time, because it's not about the fact that I got 2 darks, it's where I end up putting them. I search my deck, and then this is also a pretty important thing, is that I end up putting one of the darks back for a Fighting Energy, and this is already where I start to make my first big misplay of this game. I go for a single dark and a single fighting. I think to myself, you know, not that big a deal. I'll be able to get my Kangaskhan powered up on the next turn, and I'll be able to have the Monkey, which is good to start spreading damage, right? That's what I want. In theory, that is true. But that's part 1 of a multi-part misplay. I end up getting Iono'd here, so I lose out on some of the cards I wanted. But that's okay, you know, that's just par for the course. What's going to end up happening here is that I end up in a situation where I can retreat out the Cornerstone, you know, like intended, but they bring in Badoo. This is really smart because Badoo's going to hit me for weakness. It's going to set up the Morgrim, and now I'm in a situation where I'm getting pinged, I'm getting item locked, and I see the Morgrim in front of me. Morgrim in front of me is a problem, but there's a bigger problem that I have to deal with. There's a Monkey on board that's moving the 30 damage around. They ping my Monkey with energy already on it, and they're going to item lock me. What I have the option of doing coming up is that as all of this is going to get pinged for another 20 damage, there's only one Monkey on their board with an energy. I could target that down and be in an okay position, right? I could be safe. They use their energy switch already, so they move another 30 damage onto the Cornerstone. We're kind of calculating damage, and then we get item locked. So after we get item locked, it's going to come into our turn. Our Cornerstone gets beat up. They help me adjust the damage dies just to help speed it up. and then I draw myself for turn. I'm item locked, can't do too much. We are going to retreat out the Cornerstone. And then here's where I make kind of one of the bigger errors of the game. What I'd be able to do under normal circumstances, right? We're going to draw Aaron, draw ourselves 2, and we have boss in hand. What I do, and it's probably, again, this is one of the misplays that I make. I move 30 damage here, and I go for the Badoo KO. What I'm really hoping for is like maybe I can pull Crispin or something like that. We get another Dark Energy. We wait to see what they pull up. They put up the monkey with no energy on it. On this turn, I would have the option of KOing their other monkey, going for 2 prizes. But I hyper focus on KOing the Morgrim. I'm too scared of the Grimmsnarl because it's the only Pokemon in their deck like I know. Like I'm like, oh, they really want to get into Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl is going to hit me kind of hard, is going to, you know, be kind of annoying and things like that, right? What I'm not accounting for is the fact that if they get a second Dark Energy on their next turn, which they pretty much will, right? Like pretty much guaranteed, they're going to be moving 60 damage every turn, and all my cards are already getting pinged for 20 damage every turn. So I'm just never going to be able to keep up, and they get another monkey down. So as we speed up the footage here a little bit, what you're going to witness is that we have to play a completely different game in this matchup than I was kind of expecting, because of the fact that the reality is Kangaskhan's cool, right? It's big and beefy, but it does not matter if they just ignore it. So in this case, they're going to counter catch up the Bouffalant. They're going to spread a bunch of damage. They're going to get the second monkey on board. They're going to get the Impidimp down. And now here's where the damage spread just becomes kind of way too much for me to deal with. Again, I lose out on a monkey, so I should have 2 monkeys on board ready to go, have been moving damage to protect them, and it wouldn't have been an issue. We're now at the point where I have to go Ice Cream and a Air Balloon, because I have to get the Bouffalant out of the active, but I don't really have many other options. I bring Bouffalant in, or I bring Bouffalant to the bench, Ice Cream to heal my Kangaskhan, and now I'm feeling a little bit better without really realizing how dire this game actually is. We take the KO onto the monkey, but that's kind of irrelevant, because on this upcoming turn, all our Bouffalants got knocked out in between. Our opponent goes down to 3 prizes, and they're going to be able to just monkey the Cornerstone in the monkey and then just pass their turn, so we just get completely cooked. And what we had to realize is that our bench has to be way more prepared. The monkey war becomes the most important thing for us to do, and answering Grimmsnarl is our secondary. So we end up on the Bouffalant Open. Our opponent went first. They end up on a really powerful kind of opening hand. So they get the Buddy Poffins, they get the Spike Mouth. They're kind of setting up their board, but again, we learned from last time they go Dark Energy. We are going to be able to hit the Pokégear. We get a Arven, or not an Arven, we get a Boss's Orders. And what we'll do is go for another one. We're really looking for the Arven. We do end up finding it this time around, which is pretty good for us. And we're going to go here, Arven, get ourselves Trolley Energizer. And this is where we start to make the biggest adjustment. One, we get the triple monkey down right away because of the fact that we don't have Cornerstone to deal with. But more importantly, what we're able to do this time around is we make a big kind of decision in guaranteeing that we're winning the monkey war. We're not worried about getting Kangaskhan powered up right now. We can always do that later. We know we have time. We want to be able to make sure that we are clearing the board and winning out that monkey race more than anything else. We see them attach. They get their own second monkey on board with the Dark Energy. They go for the TM Evo. They Spike Mouth for a Grimmsnarl. And then they get themselves Morgrim and 1 Frostlask. Everything takes 10 damage. We get the Cornerstone, or the Bravery Charm set up. We're going to go 2 energy, and one of these is actually going to we're going to play this a little bit differently. We end up going 1 energy onto the Kangaskhan, 1 energy onto the Bouffalant, and the reason for this is that we can take Bouffalant out and look to kind of set up in the future. So we end up rolling the heads we needed, moving the monkey damage, and getting the KO. Everything takes a little bit more damage. They go for the Grimmsnarl evolution, and then we do make one kind of big misplay in this game that's going to come up a little bit later. But what's pretty important here is that now, at least until they end up making the play that they do, which we kind of were able to put them into, we have a situation where they'd have to kind of attack into our Bouffalant, and if they KO that, that's totally fine for us. Now, they do go Arven for the counter catcher. They are going to go counter catcher onto one of the monkeys with the energy attached to it, which is kind of an issue, but it's fine. Again, we just want to be winning that monkey war. They are monkeys up on us, but for right now, we kind of have to take our time. Now, the biggest thing that we make a mistake with right now is that we're going to be able to go energy attach, and then we go energy switch here. And so we go monkey, we move the 30 damage onto the Grim, we go energy switch, we end up moving the dark energy off. And that was a mistake because we go for the play to boss the Frostlass, right? We want to be slowing down how much monkey damage they're able to move. We should have moved the energy switch off from the Bouffalant and kept the dark energy on the monkey. That was a big misplay. I was in my head thinking that the monkey's going to get KO'd anyway. So we get to be able to keep the Bouffalant around for a little bit more, like we get the energy on it. With that said, it probably would have been for the best to keep it that way. And I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter, but it probably was the better play to make. We go Pokégear. We are deciding on what we want. We decide to keep the boss's orders. And we go Ice Cream, heal our Kangaskhan. And then this is where we're kind of deciding on how much damage will be around at the end of this turn and how much I need to be able to knock out the Grimmsnarl. Because if I can KO the Grimmsnarl here, I'm in a pretty good position with how much damage is getting spread around. So we're kind of sitting here, we're deciding, and we have to kind of figure out if we KO the Grimmsnarl, are we making the exact same mistake we made in the last game? Because in the last game, we kind of let the Frostlass run wild, but this game is a little bit different because what the end goal is that we can just end up on like a big Kangaskhan in the active to kind of close our game out more than anything else. If we KO the Grimmsnarl here, we'll be in a good spot, but we do have to roll a couple heads. The die rolls off the table. I asked them if they're okay with that because it is a little tilted. It is a heads. They accept. We roll a second heads, and then that's fine because the damage tick from the Frostlass will KO it. So then we get our 2 prizes. We're down to 2 prizes left, and we're pretty beefy. It comes down to can they make another Grimmsnarl, right? If they can make another Grimmsnarl here, spread some damage, things do become a little bit more hectic. But if they can't, then we are kind of fine. Now, we do need 2 more prizes, and it comes down to a situation where, like, if they make Grimmsnarl and they make they boost that up, they can swing into us, but there are a lot of prizes behind, and we're pretty stacked right now in terms of our situation. They could KO the Bouffalants. They choose a situation where they end up retreating out the Morgrim, and they just put in a they just put in the Impidimp and then move 60 to KO 1 Bouffalant and KO 1 copy of Munkidori. The main reason this puts them down to 2 prizes remaining, and this is the other thing, is I didn't want to overspread my board, so I can be in a situation now where, like, I bump their stadium on the last turn, so now they don't have a way guaranteed into Grimmsnarl. Unfortunately for them, they did whiff it on that last turn. That's what required them to go into the Impidimp. They're trying to figure out what the best play is. It would come down to coin flips if they want to go Grimmsnarl. potentially. And like if they go Grimmsnarl swing here, then it comes down to coin flips. They're not really sure exactly what they want to do yet. So it's going to come down to kind of an awkward situation. But we made the adjustment earlier to make sure we were targeting down the Frostlask, and that forced them on a turn prior to go for a double TM Evo play in order to miss out on a Grimmsnarl attack, so that way they could get their Frostlasks. They get another monkey on board, but all that needs to happen is that we just get a attack off, and if we get the attack off, then we win. We're both at 1 prize each, but they do have to get through a Kangaskhan with over 350 HP, and they end up scooping that game because they did not have any options in hand. So we go into our game 3, and unfortunately this game goes a little bit more awkwardly because we're in a situation where what ends up happening, we go Aaron running, we set up, and our opponent's hand is really, really bad. And so that should be really good for us in a way to kind of close the game out and not have too many negative situations for us. We're going to go for the nest ball play just to make sure. And we're kind of deciding, we know our opponent's hand is really bad because he was kind of vocal about it. So we end up making the decision to just get the second Bouffalant on board, just so that way that's done. Even if we go monkey, we don't have a way to power it up anyway on this turn. So we're kind of just willing to sit here and kind of pass it back over. Is kind of what we're discussing here. We're kind of joking back and forth. James is a really nice guy, but we are going to pass it over momentarily. I decide to go for the Pokégear as well, just to see if I'm able to get anything that really kind of changes my play for next turn. We go ahead and get a boss, which is fine for me. I'm kind of just thinning out, finding options for myself for the following turn because we don't have too much going for us. Things aren't bad, but things aren't great. And then also, again, we know that our opponent's hand is not very good, so we're kind of taking our time with that as well. And we're going to pass it off to our opponent. Their hand is really bad. We can kind of see a bit of it. So they go just Dark Energy on to the monkey on the bench. They don't really want to get anything KO'd. But then they go for a boss's orders on to our Bouffalant, kind of getting it stuck in the active, so there's not much we can really do. We are going to go Arven here, and this is where something really important happens. We go for an Arven. I'm debating on pulling out the Air Balloon in order to move the Bouffalant out of the active, but I decide to go for the Turbo Energizer to kind of keep my play alive. But I make one kind of error here. If you noticed in the deck, my fighting energies were prized, which is really bad, not only for a Turbo Energizer situation, but also for a situation where I need to move this Bouffalant out of the active. It means I'm going to have to find another energy or a penny or my air balloons to get it out. And I can't really rely on drawing into energy because not only am I about to pull a bunch out of my deck with the Energizer, but also I'll be in a situation where we're not really, we don't really want to have to use Penny for turn either. So we have to find like an Arven for air balloon. Like we have to find something in order to move this out. And the fact that there's three of our fighting energy in the discard pot, or not the discard, in the prizes, is going to make that a lot harder. So we end up just going for the Turbo Energizer here. Kind of thinking it over, figuring out what we might want to do on the following turn. We go Energizer. And there's our fighting. And that's it, we realize right now. Because we did not prize check for our fighting energy. What we wanted to do is just go double fighting onto Kangaskhan, so that way we could attempt to get into our pieces. And just kind of go and figure that out. And we will grab the Dark Energy and pass it back over to our opponent. They're kind of debating here what they want to do as well. And pretty much we told them that they were free to start like playing their turn out if they wanted to while we were like shuffling for Turbo Energizer, but they wanted to wait till they were attached to start their turn. They are kind of just sitting here. Again, their hand is not very good. We see them attach the Dark Energy. Then one of the things that's actually pretty cool, I'm not going to lie, is so they attach Air Balloon here. They attach the TM Evo. They retreat out. And what their play here is that they want to go TM Evo onto the monkey on the bench, which they can do is a legal play. It just obviously doesn't evolve into anything. But the reason why they do it is because they want to be able to reshuffle their deck and just like hope that they draw into something better, because they're just dead drawing right now and their hand is awful. So they go ahead, they fail the TM Evo, and just start to shuffle their deck up and start to kind of hope for the best for the following turns. I ask if I'm free to start. They say it's fine, so I start my turn. And the biggest problem I'm in is the fact that we don't have an energy to move our Bouffalant. So we're just kind of stuck here. We cut and pass back to them. They draw, and they get the Lily's Determination off the draw. So we're now in a situation where things are going to go from really good to really dire very quickly. They're going to be able to draw 8 cards, get themselves in a pretty good scenario. And now we're kind of stuck because, again, we need to move Bouffalant out of the active if we're ever going to be able to do anything. And even if we draw into Crispin, Crispin only gets us 1 energy to attach and retreat with because our other 2 fighting energy are prized. So we can't even go Crispin to get like Monkey Bouffalant out of the active. So we're really just kind of struggling here as they kind of are able to pop off. And so we did make a couple different mistakes ending up with our Bouffalant in the active because we really wanted to go Turbo Energizer. Where had we gone Air Balloon, we could have gotten Kangaskhan into the active. Maybe we would have had a little bit of a slower game, but we would have been able to be going run errand, drawing cards, potentially swinging, and kind of go from there, as we're just trapped with a Bouffalant. The biggest problem is, as you can see the Frostlask there, our opponent ends up actually flipping the Frostlask over. And technically speaking, because it's a card revealed, it was an accidental action. But it could have resulted in a prize penalty for our opponent. We really didn't want to have to go that route. And we're getting a judge involved trying to mitigate this situation as much as humanly possible. I was advocating to just kind of like put it at the bottom of the deck. The judge was just going to shuffle it. But at the end of the day, with the rate of play, the amount of time that was left, there was only about 5 or so minutes left. And it could have been a situation where our opponent could have got out of it. We were really stuck. But because they made the mistake, they were willing to offer a draw here because we were 1-1. And they were willing to offer a draw. Technically speaking, they probably could have won that game because we were drawing so poorly. But they offered a draw, so we took it. So we end up in 2-0-2 going into the final game. And if we were to win this one, and depending on how things shake out, we could end up in first here if we do this. Our opponent's playing the exact same deck as us. So the only difference is that their deck is playing a different copy of Bouffalant than ours. And more importantly, they are on Crustle. And because they're on Crustle, I'm going to be cutting around this game a lot. Because a lot of this game is going to be a very boring back and forth of us kind of just draw passing at each other. And me kind of just doing nothing because there's a Crustle in front of me and there's not much I can do. It's going to be a lot of my Bouffalant just swinging into their Crustle is really what this game is going to come down to. So I end up on a Crispin. I'm going to be able to get my monkey started. But I actually decide on... My opponent was being very vocal about how their hand was not incredible. This is going to be another situation where my opponent probably should have just conceded and gone into the next one because their hand is not very good. And this is a situation where, like, if they know they're going to be on Crustle, right? And that there's not much more they can do than kind of just sit here with Crustle, this game's going to go on forever. And if the game's going to go on forever, it's kind of in their best interest to just pass it and try to win one rather than play from a super behind position, because there's no chance we get to play 3 games in a game like this, where it's like Crustle versus Bouffalants. Neither of us is going to be doing any damage. We're both not going to really be getting anything done. So it becomes a situation of like, do you just play until you have a better hand? I'm going to just quickly jump to a point in this game. They end up going Ascension. They power up their Crustle. They retreat. We go Trolley on the last turn. We get our board set up, and now it's just about powering up a Bouffalant, because we need to start punching into the Crustle. We go for the Penny to pick up our Kangaskhan. There's an energy on our Bouffalant because we went Trolley, Turbo Energizer. We got our monkeys powered up. We have a Bravery Charm on the Bouffalant with an energy on it. And now we're going to get the Penny from the Pokégear. We're going to go Penny, pick up our Kangaskhan, and bring in the Bouffalant again. We do play the Kangaskhan back down. I don't actually know if that's the right decision to make or not. My logic was like, if they try to boss trap it, they either have to KO it eventually, or they have to kind of, like, they either have to KO it, or we're just going to keep monkey damaging it back and forth and until we get to Penny it again. So I wasn't all that worried about it. We go for the damage rush. We end up getting a Tails there, so we only do 50 damage, but we're kind of fine because we have the Bravery Charm down. Now, what I did not know is that Crustle's attack goes through Curly Wall as well as my Boofer ability. I kind of forgot about that, and so without the Bravery Charm, we don't live, and if they can move 60 with Crustle, we don't live. So it gets into a situation where we actually have to play around that, and I kind of forgot that that was the case. So they make the smart decision by not attacking here. They need to start getting monkeys set up, but it really comes down to, I'm just going to boss monkeys over and over and also just keep damage rushing, because technically, like I said, they cannot KO me until then. So they're going to boss a monkey. They're going to KO the monkey, take a prize card. We're going to bring our Bouffalant back in, and then we're going to just kind of set up. So I'm going to be clipping around this. We go into a future spot in the game. They've gotten their monkeys set up. We have energies on the Kangaskhan because my goal is to just kind of boss around. If I can knock out the... pretty much if I can knock out the Crustle, then it becomes a situation of like just using Kangaskhan again. So I did decide to put some energy onto it. We get ourselves ice creams at first, but then I decide, wait a minute, I don't have to do that. I can just take the time and set myself up with another monkey to start moving the 60 damage. We'll be even on monkeys, so then they really can't do anything. And I also not only have the Bravery Charm, but the biggest thing here is that I have the Lively Stadium, and they do not have a way to bump my Stadium. They had a Stadium down earlier in the game where they do play a copy of Artisan, but that does not matter now because they only play Lively Stadiums of their own, and they also play the Artisan, so I'm not worried about either of those two things happening. We get a monkey, we get our Dark Energy back, we get our deck back, shout out, and then we're going to be able to move 60, heal ourselves completely, and now even if they move the 60, the Lively Stadium is what's actually keeping us alive here. Whether we whiff the damage rush or not, we are going to roll. We get one heads, we get another heads, we get another one, and we get one more into a final Tails for the most damage any damage rush has ever done ever. So we end up being able to knock out the Crustle, make some progress. Like I said, this game has been going on for an extremely long amount of time. We're getting to the point where even if there is a game 2, neither of us are going to be able to complete it. Our opponent is kind of hell-bent on playing this out, when, again, they probably should have just moved on, because at this point, we are going to be able to just retreat out and start attacking into something else. Even if we don't go the damage rush angle anymore, we'll be able to go Kangaskhan, so it won't really matter. They move 60 damage onto, or did they? I don't even remember, actually. But we make the decision, we're going to retreat, we're going to take 2 energy off our Bouffalant. We're going to bring the Kang in, and then here's the mistake we actually make, and we realized our mistake after we made it. that I wanted to KO this Bouffalant. Yeah, there is 60 damage on our Kangaskhan. And so we move the 60 damage onto the monkey under the idea that it's like, okay, well, I KO the Bouffalant regardless of if I coin flip or not, so it doesn't really matter. But then I realized not only does it have the curly wall, which kind of negates that, but also because of our own lively stadium, that's actually not true. We do need to roll aheads, and I don't really want to risk that because, again, we're in a situation where I have no idea how long this game's going to go, and I don't feel like, one, I want to close the game out as quickly as possible, kind of on my own terms. So I'm going to go ahead and just boss the monkey without any energy or without any damage on it. And then I'm going to be able to just swing, take the KO, we get a code breaking, and now we're kind of still in the driver's seat. We're not really all too worried about that, but we're, like I said, we're kind of just sitting here, passing back and forth. Nothing super exciting is happening. They go Petrol. And Petrol is going to allow them to finally bump the stadium because they do also play the Team Rocket's Watchtower, which they decide not to even bother playing, and they are going to finally just scoop it up. Our other lively stadium was prized, so that could have made kind of an impact, but again, I don't think they were going to be able to make another cross duel anytime soon, so they do just pack it up, and we move into game number 2. But they took a very large amount of time during that game to finally decide to scoop. So we'll kind of cut into our game number 2, and it's kind of a lot of the same. We kind of knew what to expect at this point. So they open up Latios, we have the Kangaskhan, and they have the Joltik. They decided to go second. We open up pretty poorly. They go ahead and get their trolley. And honestly, this is really where disaster strikes. They're going to be able to go for the Joltik. They're going to get the jolting charge off. They attach their energies to the Dwebble. I kind of forgot what that card was called. But they're going to attach to the Dwebble. This is really important here. On my next search, I'm going to learn something very critical, and this is going to change kind of how I play the game out. They go Bouffalant, or we have the Bouffalant to place down. We decide not to, but not because it really matters. We're really waiting to see if we can get our damage rush one down. But we learned very quickly that that's not an option. We do not have our Bouffalant available. We also do not have our trolley available. That's really, really bad because it forces us to have to replay our Bouffalant, and we have to play down our monkey. So we don't have a lot available to use, and that's really bad because we do want to close out this game. Like, we don't want to go to time. We want to try to win. So we have to figure out what our best way of doing that is. We attach a Dark Energy to the Kangaskhan, and we go for the Turbo Energizer. We are going to actually remember to prize check and look at our energies because enough stuff is already prized. So let's make sure we don't make it even worse for ourselves. We go for the Double Energy onto the Bouffalant, so that way we can start to deal with something. The problem is with this Bouffalant is it hits for 130, which is decent, but the biggest issue about it is the fact that it can't attack twice in a row. And so because it can't attack twice in a row, we have to kind of account for that as the game goes on. We're going to fast forward here because, again, it's just Crustle. They go and they go Jolting Charge again while we wait to power up. We boss up the Lottie, we roll heads, take 2 prizes. We're really trying to find our other Bouffalants. There's a lot of energy on board to kind of try to rotate attacks because we're going to need our Bouffalants to do anything. We're in a situation where we're trying to speed up the game because they're just kind of passing. They know they can't attack because we have the Monkey War 1. And because they don't have a Lux Cape or anything like that, if they go for the attack, then we get to move the damage over and then just go for the KO anyway. We are just going to start applying pressure because we got the other Bouffalant down. And now we can just play a Bouffalant style game where we can play the Bravery Charm. We're going to just start to power up our other one. We put the Lively Stadium down. That's going to keep us even safer. And then we go for the Pokégear. We get another boss's orders, so we can start to boss up the other monkeys if we want. On this turn, we cannot attack, so we have to pass. And the other thing, too, is they don't want to put damage down because we can KO the Joltik that way. They end up making kind of a smart decision. They go for the Team Rocket's Factory. They draw 2 off that, and they get the Luckscape. They go Luckscape onto the Crustle, as well as a Bravery Charm onto the Joltix, so that way that's not just a free prize card we can take with a monkey. We are going to boss their monkey, KO that, and now we're in a situation where it's 2 monkeys to none, a Bouffalant to a Crustle. They're not going to be able to KO us, and they're just going to go ahead and scoop, because there isn't really any real path here where they can win. It's possible that they could end up on like going all the way to time, but then they lose anyway because we won game 1. So kind of a rough matchup for them, but it kind of played out in our favor. So we will end up taking that win there as well. This tournament was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. We were able to make really big adjustments in the Grimmsnarl matchup in order to kind of get ahead. This is our final deck list that we competed with. And yeah, I think the kind of game overall was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we ended up getting 3rd because our kind of resistance and prizing, or like resistance and stuff like that, and our ties kind of shaked out where we needed Noah, who is a buddy of mine who was playing at the same event. Had he lost his game, then I would have ended up in a situation where I got 1st, but it came down to if James, the Grimmsnarl player that I played earlier, and Noah, if they had both lost, I got 1st. If Noah lost and James won, I got 2nd. And if both of them won, I would get 3rd, and that is what happened. So I ended up in 3rd place overall. It was a very, very fun event. A lot of good things. I think major themes from this tournament was being able to adapt on the fly and kind of reassess a matchup and kind of see what went wrong and how to like kind of fix it. The other thing as well was playing for like realizing the timer. A lot of games went to time, and I think that's mostly because a lot of people play a little bit slow against this deck, trying to figure out what the best plays are and things like that, because like, if you punch and you're not punching effectively, then you're gonna get clapped back for a lot of damage. So making sure you're doing like the right things is really important in this matchup. So a lot of people end up playing a little bit slower. And then one of the other major things with this is also for myself, one of the major takeaways I want to have is also kind of knowing when to scoop. I think I did a pretty good job of that in this event, where kind of realizing when to pick it up, when to go into the next one to give myself a chance at either winning or tying rather than just taking the loss, which I think is really important. So we did have 2 ties, but that's also because we were able to kind of know when to scoop to give ourselves our best odds. And that resulted in one of our ties rather than a loss. And then one of the other ones was the Grimmsnarl game, where we kind of learned to adapt in a situation, so we didn't end up losing there. We were able to get the tie there as well, which ended up being pretty good for me. And then obviously our 2 wins, our 2 direct wins, were the like kind of mirror match, as well as the the Charizard. So yeah, overall it went pretty well. Definitely let me know what you think of these style of videos, like these kind of gameplays. That's something I definitely want to be able to go and do, and yeah, just like kind of enjoy going forward, trying to record my games and give you guys kind of live commentary on them, and kind of show like the difference between like regular online play and like tournament play, and some of the intricacies of what makes the difference in those games, like and things like that. And yeah, so biggest things, like I said, to recap, understanding timer and when it's appropriate to kind of scoop and go next, and kind of give yourself the best odds of winning, and also kind of like paying attention to what went wrong in a game and seeing more than just a misplay, but also like how the game itself, like how your decks interact and how that actually could have played a factor rather than just like one independent misplay and things like that. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know other decks that you'd want to see used in these kind of tournament gameplays, whether it be a cup or a challenge. We'll discuss kind of decks and things like that. I'll probably pull them in the Discord or in the comments or like on YouTube or something. And yeah, that's just about it, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.